What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Good Game Reviews. Here to do another game prediction. Now, this is going to look weird. If it doesn't, then good. But if it does, there's an explanation for it. I'm actually doing this off of my iPhone. I couldn't do this on my regular stuff. For some reason, I did a whole video and it didn't upload at all. I went to play it back, couldn't even play it back. So yeah, this is what we're dealing with right now. But we're not gonna let that stop us. We're gonna just push through it and keep it going. It's pretty late, but gotta do what I gotta do. So let's get into it. Now, as far as comparisons go, I'm gonna start off with the quarterback like I usually do. And for the first advantage, I'm giving the advantage to the LA Rams. Um, let's just face it, Jared Goff is having a better season. He has more touchdowns. He has one more interception than Cam Newton does, but he has a better completing percentage. He has a better QBR. He averages more yards per game. He averages more yards per pass attempt. So it's not even really a competition as far as who is, the better quarterback coming into this matchup, just based off the numbers. Now, does that mean I don't like what Cam Newton has done as of late? No, I do. I do like what he's done as of late. He's kept the ball safe, hasn't turned it over a lot. Besides the Arizona Cardinals game, where it just seemed like an off day as far as the whole offense was concerned. He was, he still found a way to get the team in a position to win, even when it seemed like he had screwed him. He redeems himself, but I'm going with the LA Rams on this one. As far as running backs go, I'm also going with the LA Rams on this one. Um, just as a whole, the running back group for the LA Rams is stronger. Henderson, Akers, Brown, all of them averaging over 4 yards per carry. All of them have decent numbers, especially Henderson. He has a really good stat sheet. Um, but for the Patriots, it's really only Damian Harris. Sonny Michel is just coming back from his injury. He had a quietly okay game, but nothing really to look at. It was just man, really, just an average game as far as Sonny Michel is concerned. Uh, in rushing, James White wasn't even a factor. I mean, he usually isn't. He's usually involved in the passing game, but just as a rusher, he just wasn't really that. He's not really effective. So you really only have Damian Harris to really rely on when it comes to running the ball. Now, if we had Rex Burkhead, that would be a different story, but we don't. So it's only really Damian Harris who's running the ball nicely. If you want to count running backs, if you want to count Cam Newton in that, cool. But I'm only counting running backs. So as far as running backs go, Damian Harris is the only guy who really is producing. But as far as their side goes, I mean Henderson and Akers, and you can even throw Brown in there. They're doing nicely. So as far as touchdowns go, accumulating first downs, uh, yards per carry, as a group, they're doing better. So I'm giving advantage to the LA Rams. Wide receiver, I don't really have to go too deep into that. I think we all know by now that wide receiver just isn't this team's strength. And when it comes to doing these comparisons, they're pretty much going to lose each time because the numbers are just that underwhelming. Now, yes, they're coming along nicely. I feel like they're finding their identity. N'Keal Harry got a touchdown last week. I mean, at this point, that's really like what you have to, hope for. Like, can N'Keal Harry contribute to this offense? And he found a way to do it. I'm still pushing for him, but I mean, he's got to do a lot, and I mean a lot, to shed that bust label because that thing is just stuck on him right now. Um, but as far as the Rams go, Cup, Woods, they're doing nicely. Reynolds, he has some pretty okay numbers. They're having a better. I mean, they're having a better season right now as far as the wide receiver group goes. They're having a better season right now. Receiving yards, touchdowns, all of it is just better. So I'm giving it to the Rams on that one. Tight end, also not really much of a conversation to have on that one. Higbee and Everett, They're obviously the better tight ends in this matchup compared to what the Patriots have. It's not even close. So you can go ahead and give it to the Rams on that one. Um, as far as O line goes, I decided to split it. Now, I went on a site that was called 4for4 to look up the offensive line rankings, and they're pretty much neck and neck when it comes to uh, pass protection, um, as far as the running protection, as far as being able to run the ball. Um, they're pretty much neck and neck. They're in the top 10, and it was just hard to decide between both of them. They're both missing their best tackles. In my opinion, they're missing both of their best tackles. But that still hasn't really stopped them as of recently. They're still doing nicely. They're still protecting the passer. They're still moving the ball. So it was just hard to choose between both of them. I decided to go, just split it half and half. As far as the defensive end position goes, now this is weird. I was only really able to find, one defensive end for the Rams. His name's Morgan Fox. It seems that they use more of their linebackers on that edge as far as edge rushers go, like Floyd and all them. That just seems to be the way they do it. If I was just going based off of just edge rushers, guys who they put on the edge, Leonard Floyd would obviously, have the advantage just as being like the better edge rusher coming into this game. But he's a linebacker, so I just decided to keep this to the defensive ends. And Morgan Fox is really their only guy that they have listed as a defensive end. He has 3 sacks on the season. Cool, but I'm not gonna, really compare it to what the Patriots have as far as the defensive end group goes. And I feel like Chase Winovich is a better defensive end anyway, so I decided to give the Patriots the advantage, in that spot. As far as defensive linemen go, the D tackles, of course, I'm going with the Rams, Brockers, and Donald. Just it's no comparison. I like Guy. I like Butler. They're coming along nicely, especially in recent weeks. They've definitely found their way, but I have to give it to the Rams. It's just no comparison, really. It's Donald. It's Aaron Donald. 11 sacks. Don't really even have to say nothing after that. As far as the linebacker goes, I'm going with the Rams on this one also. Look, we're gonna have to wait until the Patriots linebackers get a little bit more experience, produce some more numbers before we give them the advantage in some of these matchups. There is still looking bare bone as far as the numbers go. So I have to go with the team with more experience and more production. So I'm going with the Rams on this one, and they have a nice group. Like I stated earlier, Leonard Floyd, nice guy off the edge, doing well, has 7 sacks. Awesome. So I'm going with them. As far as just the whole secondary goes, I decided to go with the Patriots. Cornerback room, just based off of production, they're doing nicely. J.C. Jackson now has 7, interceptions on this season. Has 12 passes defended. That's not to say that the Rams, don't have anything to go going for them as far as the secondary goes. Obviously, they do. Darius Williams is kind of like J.C. Jackson, not as far as like the players comparison, but just as far as like numbers go. Even though he's not considered their best cornerback, looking at the stat line, um, you would think he is because he has 13 passes defended. He has 4 interceptions on the season, which is the most interceptions that the Rams have. As far as their defensive room goes, he has the most interceptions. He has the most passes defended. So he has the better, he has the better, production value. Um, but I think same thing with JC. I think what's keeping them lower is just the amount of tackles that they have. They don't have a lot of tackles, so they don't register as high on the list when you look at the stat sheet. But I mean, that's just what it is. But not to say that I don't like what they have in that secondary. Ramsey, dude's really good. Darius Williams, he's good, but I decided to go with the Patriots. Obviously Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, Jonathan Jones. If they're all able to play now, JC and Jonathan were on the questionable list. They went out of, uh, of the game with those injuries. But if they're able to play and if they're looking good, then I'm giving them the advantage. As far as safety goes, I also gave that to the Patriots. Um, yeah, Devin McCourty, Adrian Phillips, they're just doing really nice this year, especially Adrian Phillips. I mean, he has pretty much just established himself as a leader. Um, he, it's not enough good things to say about him. He plays all over the field. He's involved in almost every play. Anytime the ball is in the air, it just seems like he's somewhere in the vicinity. So it's just nice to have him on the team. Especially this being his first year, he's just kind of just came just like that. Um, as far as special teams go, I'm going with the Patriots on this one also. I just feel as a special teams unit, they're miles better than a lot of teams. Um, Returning the ball, kicking the ball. Now, if I was doing a battle between Hecker and Bailey, Hecker might get the slight notch, given his ability to put the ball, inside the 20. He's a fantastic punter as well. Bailey is, pretty much in that same realm. So it's like you could pick either or, and I wouldn't even disagree with you. But just overall, the special teams unit, the Patriots have a better special teams unit, so I'm going with them on that one. Coaching, I kind of did the same thing that I did with the O line, which is I split them. So McVay, Belichick, even though Belichick was able to get the advantage on McVay in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, I feel like McVay kind of just outcoached himself. Like he just tried to do too much. He got into his own head, and by the end of the game, he's looking at the scoreboard, and his team only has 3 points, and it's like, wait a minute, how did that happen? I came in here with a team that was averaging over 30 points per game, and then I walk out of here with only three, and I just lost the Super Bowl because I couldn't put up enough points, which is crazy. But I feel like he's going to be a little more comfortable in this. He's probably not going to outthink himself. And I just like him as a coach, overall. I feel like what he's done with that organization since he's came is just, phenomenal. Young guy, but, very intelligent. Um, Belichick, we know Belichick is Belichick, and he just finds ways to win games. And it just seems like he's at one point where people were thinking maybe this team is tanking, which was ridiculous to think that Bill Belichick would ever tank. But even at that point, there was people suggesting that he was, and it was just, he was just playing the long game. And I think that's just what Bill Belichick does. He plays the long game, and by the time he finds the identity of his team, it's nearly impossible to outcoach him. Once he finds the identity for his team, and once he finds exactly what each and every member does well and where he wants that particular player at, it just seems like it's it's just like that. It's automatic. Like he's like, okay, I know exactly who to put out now. I know exactly what to do. We're going against this opponent. I'm going to use this guy here and this guy. It it's science. It really is. So it was pretty hard to like choose between each one of these guys. Um, they're doing amazing. Obviously, McVay has the advantage as far as the record goes, but I just feel it's like experience and just the knowledge and the ability to just flip a game plan. If this ain't working and I just turn to this, I feel like Belichick has the advantage in that. So it was very hard to choose them. So I had just decided to do it same as the offensive line. I just decided to split it. I just decided to say, okay, I'm gonna go with both of them. If you look at the advantages, or if you made it this long, obviously the Rams have quite a few more advantages. That offensive line, I mean, it's not, excuse me, not the offensive line, but it's the offense overall. I just pretty much gave them all of that. You know, the only thing that they don't have fully is the offensive line because I split that, but the offense as a whole, they have that defensive tackle, linebacker, and even the places where they didn't win, where I felt the Patriots just better at, they're not bad. The secondary is a really good secondary. It's just not better than the Patriots as far as the numbers go, but it's a good secondary. And they got, even though they don't have defensive ends, they got guys coming off the edge who are able to rush the passer. you know, quite nicely, I might add, even better than the edge rushers that the Patriots have. They just don't have the defensive ends in terms of just name, but they have the edge rushers. Defensive tackle, just nicely. I feel like just overall, they have a solid defense, a solid offense, and this is pretty much going to be their hardest game. I know they still have the Dolphins and the Bills left, and that's funny to say, but those are two talented teams also. But I feel like this game right here, this Rams matchup, this is pretty much going to be their hardest task right here. So I feel that if they're able to make it out of this one, then they could pretty much run the table and take on the Dolphins and take on the Bills and then finish off on the Jets. And they could possibly find themselves in the playoffs. But I feel like this is the major hurdle for this team, and if they can get over this, then you know I ain't gonna say easy selling because that's it's not that cut and dry, but things they become a little more easier. Um, as far as keys for the game, goes, I think it all depends on the matchup between the Patriots O line and Aaron Donald. I know everybody has pretty much put this point out here. I could go with the Patriots defensive line and how they will be able to scheme against Jared Goff and see if they can make him uncomfortable because obviously that's something that they have to do. They got to make Jared Goff uncomfortable. But I feel like that's a given. They know what they got to do. They've experimented against other quarterbacks. And I think looking at last game, even though I won't say that the Chargers have a good offensive line, I say the fact that they were able to scheme things against a guy like Justin Herbert, as talented as he is, they were able to just find ways to make him uncomfortable. And looking down the list, I don't think that the remaining quarterbacks are that much better than Justin Herbert. As strange as that is to say, being that he's a rookie, I don't think that the guys remaining are better than him. So I think that's just something that I could just leave to them to figure out. But I feel like the major point of concern is how do they deal with this defensive line? If the defensive line wins the battle in the trenches, then consider it a wrap. Especially with the way that the Patriots have been putting up, passing yards, you know, in these recent games. If they do this same mess against this team and aren't able to get anything going, I mean, like the running game. I mean, if they look the way they did against the Cardinals, where they weren't able to get things done on the ground and they weren't able to really get things done in the air, and they had to rely on certain little mistakes from other parts of the team, then this could easily be a big loss for them. But if they can control that battle, if they can find ways to take Donald out of the equation, kind of similar to the Super Bowl matchup where they were still able to find ways to run the ball. If they can do that, then combination of Damian Harris and Cam Newton both working the ground, using their legs, then they can find a way to win this game. They're still going to have to find a way to put it through the air. They're going to have to do better than they have in these last couple of games. But if they're able to keep that ground game consistent and take Donald out of this, then they have a really good chance of winning this game. Um, Obviously, you can also count special teams in this as well. They've pretty much become a factor at this point, and you can't really ignore what they've done. So even though I think McVay might find a way to like kind of scheme against that, you also have to take that to account. But the major thing to look at is the Patriots offensive line going against Aaron Donald and that defensive line. That's the major battle to watch. And, just watch out for that and see how that unfolds. Now, who do I have winning this game? I know looking at the numbers, you would say that the Rams have a better chance. Um, I think like I'm gonna say it again, going with my mind. I feel like the Rams have they based on the numbers they have a better chance. They have a better chance of winning this game because they have more on offense. They have a little more on defense. You know, special teams may be a small weakness, especially with the kicking situation. Their kicker, Matt Gay, he's questionable for the game, and as far as his accuracy, he's not pretty good. He's in like the 71.4 range, so that's not really good. But I think if that's the only weaknesses you can find, yeah, you're still gonna be in for a long game. Um, like I said again, it all depends on offensive line versus Rams defensive line. That's what a battle is. Um, but yeah, my mind is going with the Rams. However, like I said earlier, if that battle turns into the favor of the Patriots and they're able to run the ball nicely and they're able to get, I want to say, over 80 yards at least. Like if Damian Harris is able to, do the same thing he was able to do against the Chargers and get about 80 yards or plus, and Cam Newton is able to run the ball too, then I can see the Patriots winning this game just by playing the fundamentals and not making mistakes and not turning the ball over. I feel that they can easily win this game, and even though it'll be a close matchup, it'll be a close score. I feel like the Patriots could probably come out of this, but based on the numbers, the Rams have the advantage. But it can really go either or. So Rams based off the numbers, and Patriots, based off of just how well they're able to do with the matchup. Um, man, but I feel like I got to pick one. So Patriots by 4. You know, 24-20, something like that. I'll throw that out there. Yeah. Like I said, it's really hard to pick. It's not as cut as dry as you may think. That's just my opinion. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Next game, they have the Dolphins. Um, Huge playoff implications with that game. We have to see what happens with this game first, but you know, anything can really happen. So watch out for that next game. Um, until next time, I'm out.